So now we're going to examine the scene file, which is a rather large file. Um, as we can see, a lot of includes um, the description base scene object. Align at 16. Then now we go to the default constructor, which is the only constructor. Well, yes. So here we see I create the managers here for the game object ubles, and as well as the registration broker for the command pattern, and then I call initialized. One thing I want to point out here, I don't know what's causing these. Like sometimes it does this little red squiggle, but like I could run the game right now and it would work perfectly. I don't know why it does that, but I think it's just some Visual Studio weirdness. In fact, I will run the video just to prove, like, or I'll run the game just to prove. Voila. There we go. Ta-da. It works. Yeah. That's just some weirdness. Anyway, it's a get method to get the scene cameras. We submit the command through the command broker. That's the base one. I think there's a few more down further. Or actually, I don't think so. Actually, I'm pretty positive. No, this is the only one. It's for the registration broker. It uses the ubles, and in that it has we'll see this later, but it has the specific command. Sorry, I misspoke there for a second. Anyway, it submits the command to the registration broker to be processed later in the scene file. Here we see set the collision pair for the collidables, set collision self. Here we are able to add time to an alarm. This is called from alarmable. As we'll see later. So here we see subtract time from alarm, same kind of thing, called from alarmable. The user doesn't actually call this method; they call a in-house method, in alarmable method, and then this calls it. So that's another way of wrapping it up, so it's easier for the user. Okay. So now we see the friend class scene manager to be able to get into all these private methods. As we saw earlier, this is the scene manager calls update, and this is the update function. As we can see, it executes the commands first, then checks for collisions, then processes alarms, then processes inputs, and then finally does updates. I do it in this order specifically so that update is the very last thing that does it, so that everything it can be as current as possible for the update function. And now we see the draw function with the draw manager and the process list. We'll go into the drawable manager in a little bit to see how it handles the sprites and adding the sprites in. So on scene end, we delete the managers. As we can see here, friend class, it's all the commands that they can get into the actual private methods. But the actual commands, or the actual ubles, aren't able to access them. This is not called by user. It's called by the register broker. Also not called by user, called by the register broker. Here we see the registering objects, all not called by user. We register with the specific manager from the register broker. Well, from the register commands, but the register broker calls those commands. So yeah, and then we got the D registers in there too. And then the managers. Once again, don't know why it's doing this. Works perfectly. So in this video, I guess I'll go over the registration for the, I don't know, I'll go over the registration broker, and then also the a user scene, show you what it looks like from their side. So here's the registration broker. So you can see it's got default constructor, destructor, list of commands. Didn't need to be an unordered map or anything for this because it's just a list. So we're just stacking them up. And then the scene is able to get in here to add commands. And then execute the commands on the beginning of the update function. So here we see creating the list of commands, deleting all the list of commands on the destructor, adding commands to the list, and then executing the commands. So we just go in here, call the execute function, which is in every command, and then we clear the list. I'll also go over the base command. As we can see, it's super simple. It's just class, and then with one method, execute, because that's all that really needs to be done in the base version of it. Let's look at a example of a scene that a user would use. Just to show you how they use the scene thing, the scene file. So default constructor with empty, then they just do initialize. They have their objects, and here is how a scene would work. So they create the first camera by getting the scene cameras, creating a new camera, and then updating the camera. And then also the scene manager set next scene right here. That's how they set the next scene after this scene. I don't have a functionality to go back in scenes yet. I mean, I guess I could have put that in, but I don't have it. Creating objects, obviously it's very simple, and then we see the set collision pair, set collision self, very much like in the Centipede game. So that is how a user would use this. To demonstrate the scene change, just go in here and then boom, that was a scene change. As we can see, we don't have the lives counter, we don't have an enemy anymore. It's just a very basic empty scene, and that's on purpose just to showcase that this is how you change scenes. With that, I think I will end this video and head into the different game objectables next.